In the quiet pre-dawn hours of March 18, 2018, a young man named Max Phillip Greenfield was walking out of the Lucky 7 Casino in Smith River, California, an image frozen in time by a surveillance camera, marking the last known sighting of the 25-year-old from Harbor, Oregon. What unfolded in that moment has since become unknown, a puzzle shrouded in shadows and haunting questions. Tonight, we delve into the perplexing case of Max Greenfield's disappearance, a mystery that began not with a scream or a struggle, but with a simple, seemingly innocuous departure from a casino late at night. Max was no stranger to the Lucky 7 Casino, a place he frequented often, yet his presence there in the early morning hours raised immediate concerns. Why was a young man from Oregon in the Smith River Casino so late at night? What brought him there? And more importantly, what happened afterward? These questions haunt the margins of the limited evidence available. On that chill March morning, surveillance footage captured a critical detail. Max was not alone. Alongside him was an unidentified Caucasian male, an adult man whose features and identity have been withheld from the public, but whose presence is a cornerstone of this case. The footage shows Max and this unknown companion engaged in conversation outside the casino, a brief but charged interaction that would become the last visual trace of Max Greenfield. This companion's return alone to the casino mere minutes after parting with Max casts a long shadow over the investigation. His vague claim to authorities, that they simply parted ways, provides little clarity and leaves room for troubling speculation. Did he know more than he allowed on the surface? Why has his identity remained a secret? These unanswered questions add layers of complexity to an already intricate case. Compounding the difficulty facing investigators is the geographic and jurisdictional divide between Oregon and California. Max's home in Harbor, Oregon, falls under the Curry County Sheriff's Office, yet the disappearance technically occurred on California soil, in the domain of the Del Norte County Sheriff's Office. Cross-jurisdictional cases often encounter hurdles, disparities in resources, communication barriers, and the challenge of fluid cooperation between agencies, all of which may slow investigative progress at the most crucial stages. The surveillance footage, while invaluable, also highlights the limits of available evidence. It captures Max's movements inside and just outside the casino, his restless waiting near the back door, and eventually his meeting in the front parking lot with the unknown man at approximately 1:50 a.m. But beyond the edge of that camera's view, Max Greenfield's path disappears. Was there a car waiting nearby? Did they head to another location, or did something more sinister take place unseen? This evidentiary void is where the mystery deepens. The troubling circumstances surrounding Max's disappearance are further colored by the nature of his late-night visit and the presence of this stranger. Max was seen leaving the casino not long after being asked to exit due to a lack of identification, a seemingly minor incident that nonetheless forced him outside in the cold, possibly vulnerable and without a clear plan. It was a moment that may have altered everything. As the layers of this case unfurl, one thing becomes starkly clear. The last hours of Max Greenfield's life are a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Who was the man he was with, and what truly transpired after they left the camera's gaze? How did the jurisdictions involved coordinate their search for answers, and what challenges did they face in those earliest, most critical hours of investigation? These questions set the stage for exploring the full depth of Max's disappearance. This opening glimpse into Max's vanishing act reveals not only the known facts, but also the profound uncertainties that define the case. It invites us to listen carefully to the silent evidence, to consider the gaps and the shadows, and to understand the human story concealed within the surveillance footage and police reports. Max Greenfield's disappearance is not just a missing person case. It is a call to illuminate the unseen, to chase down every lead, and to seek truth in a story that, so far, has too many unresolved chapters. Max Phillip Greenfield was not just another missing person statistic. He was a young man with a story, a life lived close to family and community, marked by distinctive traits that made him unique in the eyes of those who knew him. To understand the gravity of his disappearance, it's essential to paint a vivid portrait of who Max was, the physical presence he carried, the life he led in Harbor, Oregon, and the vulnerabilities that shaped his world. Standing 6 feet tall, Max was of an average build, weighing between 150 and 160 pounds. His brown hair framed a face punctuated by striking features, green or perhaps blue eyes, sources differ slightly, and a pierced nose that added a hint of individuality to his appearance. Perhaps most emblematic of Max was the tattoo etched onto his left forearm, a skeleton key, a symbol that captured the imagination and hinted at secrets or the unlocking of something deeply personal. On the night he vanished, he wore black jeans, a dark t-shirt, a black jacket, and a knit stocking cap or beanie. Alongside him was a black duffel bag filled with art supplies, underscoring a creative spirit beneath the complicated surface. Max's life centered in Harbor, Oregon, where he lived with his mother, Andrea. His existence was tightly interwoven with family. He had a close bond with Andrea and his sister Tanya, relationships that were vital anchors in his life. Unlike many of his peers, Max did not own a vehicle and did not drive, which meant his world was somewhat circumscribed by others' availability and willingness to provide transportation. His frequent visits to the nearby Lucky 7 Casino in Smith River, California, were part of his regular routine, a familiar environment where he would spend time, sometimes with friends who helped him get there. What makes Max's disappearance all the more distressing is the sharp contrast it presents to his usual behavior. Family members emphasize how unusual it was for Max not to be in touch. He was never known to go more than a day or two without communication, particularly with his mother and sister. That silence, abrupt and unprecedented, set off immediate alarm bells. It was a deviation that turned a missing person case into a mystery laced with underlying fear and concern. This deviation, however, cannot be disentangled from the vulnerabilities that shadowed Max. He was battling an unspecified mental illness, and critically, on the night of his disappearance, he did not have his prescribed medication with him. For anyone living with a mental health condition, medication is often a lifeline, a stabilizing force that helps navigate the unpredictable nuances of daily life. Without it, judgment can falter, perceptions can warp, and the ability to respond to danger or stress can diminish dramatically. Such a state rendered Max significantly more vulnerable than most. Contributing further to his fragile state was a history of heroin use. Substance use carries its own dangerous overlay, potentially impairing cognitive function and making individuals more susceptible to harm. Whether Max was under the influence that night or struggling with withdrawal or cravings remains unknown, but this past adds another layer of complexity to his disappearance. Signs that Max's disappearance was not planned or voluntary become painfully evident when examining the items he left behind. His favorite jacket, his identification, and even his food stamp card were all abandoned, an unusual choice for anyone setting out on a voluntary journey or even a short trip. Such essentials are typically the basics people take when they expect to be gone for any length of time. Their absence hints at an interruption, an event that forced his departure from normalcy and, possibly, from safety. Communication, too, was limited. Max carried a Wi-Fi-only cellular device with no independent data connection, a detail that proved crucial when tracing his movements. His phone disconnected from the casino's Wi-Fi network on the night he vanished, eliminating an investigative tool that often tracks missing persons and provides pivotal clues. Combined with lacking a vehicle, this technological isolation painted a picture of someone adrift, reliant yet vulnerable. Beyond these tangible details lie the unseen emotional contours that humanize Max beyond descriptions and timelines. His close family ties underscored a relational network that was abruptly fractured. Plans made with his sister shortly before his disappearance, like watching a movie together, serve as stark reminders of the life that was suddenly silenced. Max was a person with relationships, hopes, and a routine that was upended in a moment no one expected. In understanding Max Greenfield, one uncovers a portrait of a man marked by both resilience and fragility. His distinctive physical traits, coupled with his reliance on family and habitual patterns, situate him firmly within a community that watched helplessly as he disappeared. His mental health struggles and history of substance use do not define him but provide critical context to the dangers he faced. The abandoned essentials, the jacket and ID, speak volumes about the suddenness and unplanned nature of his disappearance. Max was not someone who chose to vanish. The story of his life and vulnerabilities tells us about a man caught in a moment of peril, whose absence has left a void in the hearts of those who knew him and a puzzle for those dedicated to uncovering the truth. As this investigation unfolds, remembering the human being behind the case strengthens our resolve, not just to find answers, but to honor the life disrupted and the familial bonds stressed by silence. This portrait of Max Greenfield serves as a vital lens through which to view the events that followed, a foundation of understanding that carries the weight of empathy and the necessity of hope as the search for truth continues. On the night that would mark the beginning of one of the most baffling disappearances in the region, Max Phillip Greenfield's last known movements paint a picture both ordinary and unsettling. It all began with a familiar scene, a social evening spent in the company of family. Just 2 evenings before Vanishing Day, on March 16, 2018, Max shared a drink with his sister, Tanya. They were together at a local casino near their home in Harbor, Oregon, engaging in a simple ritual of sibling companionship. Tanya dropped Max off safely at their mother's residence, plans gently laid for another movie outing in the days ahead. This exchange reflected the normal cadence of Max's life, underscoring the tragedy of what was to come by highlighting how abruptly things would change. The following evening, late on March 17th, Max's journey took him away from the safe boundaries of family and into the neon-lit realm of the Lucky 7 Casino in Smith River, California. Friends had picked him up from his mother's house, driving the barely 15-minute trip south across state lines. For someone like Max, who relied on others for transportation and did not own a vehicle, this ride was more than a simple commute. It was a passage into a setting where fate would soon take a darker turn. Upon arriving at the casino, Max, a regular patron known by the establishment, was confronted by an unexpected obstacle. He was asked to leave. The reason was straightforward yet significant: he lacked proper identification. This demand to vacate, not just for a moment but altogether, forced Max outside into the early hours of the Saturday to Sunday transition. For a man accustomed to this environment, being turned away could have been disorienting, frustrating, even deeply unsettling. Without his ID, without his favorite jacket or food stamp card, which he notably left behind that night, Max was pushed outside the threshold, set adrift from the familiarity and security of the casino's interior. The surveillance cameras of the Lucky 7 Casino offer the most tangible glimpse into Max's final known moments. Around 1 a.m., Max is captured entering the casino, a lone figure weaving through its halls with the familiarity of a regular visitor. Yet, not long afterwards, he is seen stepping outside and taking a position near the casino's back door. This waiting is ambiguous. It could suggest a hope to be reunited with his friends, the attempt to find re-entry, or possibly an anxious watch for someone yet unknown. The cameras reveal a restless pacing, a figure moving intermittently between the casino's periphery and the adjacent parking lot, an area bathed in cold light and shadows. Then, at roughly 1:50 a.m., surveillance footage tracks Max as he moves from the rear toward the front entrance. It is here, in the stark glow of the casino's main doors, that the story reaches a pivotal moment. Waiting there is an unidentified Caucasian man, an adult male whose presence is a stark, cold fragment in an otherwise fragmented narrative. Max and this man engage in a conversation that lasts somewhere from a minute to several, depending on the accounts. Though the words between them remain forever unheard, the exchange is recorded in still frames of surveillance cameras, an eerie testament to the complexity and mystery of Max's disappearance. Their meeting is no passing glance. This stretch of time, this critical juncture, is loaded with possibilities. Was the interaction planned or spontaneous? Was it friendly or fraught? Did Max seek help, companionship, or did the man offer guidance, or perhaps something far more sinister? None of these questions have clear answers, but they turn this encounter into a fulcrum around which the entire case hinges. After their talk, the two men walk away together, their figures moving southward across the expanse of the casino's parking lot, gradually slipping from the watchful eyes of the cameras. Their path runs parallel to Highway 101, a major thoroughfare with endless routes, countless exits, and no clarity on what lies next. Here, the trail goes cold. This final recorded meeting raises deep concerns. Being asked to leave the casino for lacking ID placed Max outside in an environment where he was more vulnerable, potentially confused, or distressed. His actions in these hours, the waiting near the door, pacing the parking lot alone, and finally engaging with an unknown man, the fragile and precarious state he was likely in. With the absence of identification and the lack of medication for his mental illness that night, Max was exposed to unknown risks in an unfamiliar state of mind. As this segment ends, narrative is left suspended on that chilling image captured at 1:50 a.m., two men meeting beneath the casino's front lights, stepping together into the shadows beyond. This moment stands as the last verifiable interaction of Max Greenfield, one loaded with unanswered questions and fraught with ominous possibilities. What followed remains the haunting void that investigators and loved ones have struggled to illuminate ever since. In the next chapter, we will delve deeper into what the casino's surveillance footage reveals about those final moments and the enigma of the man who walked away with Max. When the lights flicker through the casino floor and the hum of slot machines fills the air, there are countless stories unfolding, some of celebration, some of chance, and others that slip silently into shadow. One such shadow is cast by a single surveillance camera at the Lucky 7 Casino in Smith River, California. It captured the final, fleeting moments of Max Phillip Greenfield, a young man whose story would soon spiral into a haunting mystery. The footage serves as both a witness and a puzzle. It is the last piece of tangible evidence of Max's existence before he vanished without a trace. The casino's surveillance system recorded Max's movements on the early morning of March 18, 2018. After spending time inside, Max was compelled to leave the casino, asked to do so because he lacked proper identification. This seemingly mundane ruling forced him outside, setting the stage for what would become his last known appearance on video. As the hours edged past 1:50 a.m., Max walks out the front entrance into the cool night air. Then, amid the rows of parked cars and fading neon, he meets an unidentified adult Caucasian male. The cameras capture them entering a conversation, one that lasts long enough to raise questions, but short enough to remain frustratingly vague. The content of their exchange? Unknown. The length? Described in some reports as several minutes, in others simply as about a minute. What remains clear is that this interaction was significant enough to be captured deliberately by the cameras, framing a pivotal moment of contact between Max and the last known person to be seen with him. Their body language offers little for certainty. The men stand close but not conspicuously intimate. They gesture, they speak, but none of this is audible to the electronic eyes observing them from above. This anonymity deepens the mystery. Who was this man? Was he a friend, a stranger, or something more complicated? The fact that the cameras caught only their physical presence but no audio leaves their relationship and intentions suspended in speculation. Every detail known about Max suggests he was vulnerable that night, without his medication, lacking identification, and dependent on others for transport and support. Did this encounter offer safety or threat? The surveillance footage silently demands answers the world has yet to find. After this uncertain conversation, Max and the man walk south across the casino parking lot, their figures shrinking as they approach the edge of the surveillance coverage. This final footage marks the limit of what we can know visually about Max's movements. Beyond the camera's reach, there is only darkness and silence. The cameras do not reveal what happened next. Did they get into a vehicle parked nearby or continue on foot into the shadows beside Highway 101? Did they encounter others? Did anything untoward occur? These questions linger because, once beyond sight, Max Greenfield disappears from the evidence entirely. This footage, as stark as it is limited, serves a dual role. It is a vital piece of evidence and a glaring emblem of uncertainty. It proves Max was last accounted for at this moment and place. It confirms the presence of another individual whose role is central but unclear. Yet, it leaves an evidentiary black hole immediately after, the unknown swath where Max's fate began to unfold away from the watchful eyes of surveillance. The restrictions of this visual record a fundamental challenge in missing person investigations, the limitation of technological and human oversight. Surveillance cameras, while invaluable, have fixed ranges and blind spots. They expose moments but cannot narrate storylines. They may present what might otherwise vanish but are powerless to prevent disappearances or unveil silent truths. In Max's case, the casino cameras bore witness up to the point where the mystery thickened most, where he stepped beyond their gaze and into a world that remains concealed. Reflecting on this, the footage becomes a symbol, part record, part riddle. It invites us to piece together clues, but also confronts us with the frustrating reality that some moments are only partially captured, leaving much to inference. It challenges law enforcement, family, and the public alike to imagine what lies in that unseen space beyond the last frame, the final steps of Max Greenfield's last known journey. As we move forward, this surveillance footage stands as the definitive visual documentation of Max's last moments under observation. Its significance is profound, yet incomplete, reminding us always of the thin line between presence and absence, visibility and obscurity in the search for truth. The silent witnesses of this story speak volumes, even as they leave so much unsaid. In understanding these images, we honor Max's memory and recognize the enduring mystery that challenges us to look closer, ask more, and hold on to hope in the face of uncertainty. The final person seen with Max Greenfield before his mysterious disappearance is a figure shrouded in uncertainty and questions. Described simply as an adult Caucasian male, this man remains enigmatic, with no further physical details released to the public. His anonymity has become a focal point of both intrigue and suspicion in unraveling the circumstances surrounding Max's vanishing. Timeline established by casino surveillance footage casts a particularly telling light on this individual's movements. He was last seen walking away from the Lucky 7 casino alongside Max in the early hours of March 18, 2018, their interaction lasting several minutes, a span whose meaning remains veiled but significant. What happened in those moments? Were they friends, acquaintances, or strangers? The camera's silent gaze captured their exchange but offered no answers. Critically, after Max disappears from the footage as they walk beyond the camera's reach, the unknown male returns alone to the casino just 15 to 18 minutes later. This swift, solitary return deepens the mystery. Why did he come back so soon and alone? What did he do in the minute after parting ways with Max that led him back to the casino? Such questions swirl around this moment, generating theories and casting shadows on his role in what would become an unresolved disappearance. Law enforcement did locate and question this man, and his account was straightforward. He claimed that he and Max simply parted ways after leaving the casino together. Yet, the paucity of public information about this individual has led to considerable speculation. The decision by authorities to withhold his identity from the public eye is unusual and significant. It may reflect a cautious investigative strategy, protecting a witness's privacy or holding back information while the inquiry unfolds. Alternatively, it could imply that investigators are neither fully convinced by his statements nor ready to dismiss his potential involvement. The vagueness of the phrase, "parted ways," itself invites further scrutiny. Where and how did this separation occur? Did the man observe Max's path afterward? The lack of clarity leaves a gap in the narrative at a critical juncture, right when Max's fate hinged on what happened next. Moreover, law enforcement's early public statements have suggested that foul play is suspected. They have expressed a belief that multiple individuals, not just this man, hold relevant knowledge about Max's disappearance. This widens the lens on the investigation, suggesting a circle of people, some possibly silent or hesitant to share what they know. The unknown male's rapid return without Max may indicate he was alone at that point, but the possibility remains that others were involved or aware in ways yet unseen. This uncertainty fuels many unresolved questions. Was the unknown companion acting alone, or was he part of a larger, more complicated situation? Could he have been trying to cover his tracks or distance himself from something sinister? Or is he simply an unfortunate witness to circumstances beyond his control? The choice to keep his identity concealed complicates public understanding and fuels speculation, but it also reflects the delicate balance investigators must maintain between transparency and preserving the integrity of an ongoing case. The absence of further, descriptive information about this man hampers the public's ability to piece together a fuller picture. Without a name, background, or detailed account, the man remains a shadow on the edges of this case, both essential and elusive. His enigmatic presence underscores the broader gaps in knowledge demanding answers. The moments after the two men left the casino, the man's interactions upon his return alone, and the reasons behind Max's sudden and complete disappearance. These unanswered questions highlight the challenges that law enforcement faces in this case, a complex puzzle woven with silence and partial truths. It is clear that the man last seen with Max carries a weight of significance, whether as a witness, a person of interest, or merely a link to the unknown. His story, halfway told and scrubbed of detail, remains one of the critical threads investigators continue to follow in hopes of unraveling the full truth behind Max Greenfield's vanishing. As we turn to the broader investigation, the unknown male's shadowy role invites us to consider the wider circle of individuals who may hold pieces of the puzzle. What other voices lie silent within this tragedy, and how does withholding certain details shape our understanding of what truly happened that night? The story of the last companion is not just about one man but serves as a gateway into the deeper mysteries that have kept Max's disappearance unresolved. The moment a loved one is reported missing marks the beginning of a harrowing journey, one filled with uncertainty, urgency, and the desperate hope that answers lie just beyond reach. For Max Phillip Greenfield, that journey began on Tuesday, March 20, 2018, when his mother, Andrea Greenfield, officially reported him missing to the Curry County Sheriff's Office in Oregon. This report was the catalyst that ignited a complex investigation straddling two states and involving multiple agencies, each navigating the challenges that cross-jurisdictional cases so often entail. In the initial hours following Andrea's report, law enforcement agencies moved swiftly to piece together the last known movements of Max. Central to their efforts was collaboration between Oregon's Curry County Sheriff's Office, which handled the initial report, and California's Del Norte County Sheriff's Office, responsible for the area where Max had last been seen, the Lucky 7 Casino in Smith River, California. These two offices worked in concert, pooling resources and sharing crucial evidence, including surveillance footage that would prove indispensable yet ultimately incomplete. From the outset, investigators recognized the importance of the casino's video surveillance. The footage captured Max entering the casino late at night, then being asked to leave due to lacking proper identification, a procedural incident that forced him outside, and, it seemed, set the stage for what followed. It showed Max alternating between waiting near the back door and eventually moving to the front entrance, where he engaged at length with an unidentified adult Caucasian male. This man, whose identity was later discovered but not publicly disclosed, became an immediate person of interest. Law enforcement was able to question him, learning that he claimed he and Max had simply parted ways after leaving the casino property together. Yet, this explanation did little to quell suspicions. The man's return to the casino alone, approximately 15 to 18 minutes after parting from Max, deepened the enigma and intensified scrutiny around him. From an investigative standpoint, his solitary and relatively quick return alone struck as unusual and raised numerous unanswered questions. However, the lack of public disclosure regarding his identity or the full content of his statement left a gap in community knowledge, possibly reflecting a deliberate law enforcement decision to protect the integrity of the investigation or due to insufficient evidence to designate him as a suspect. Through public statements, the law enforcement agencies made clear their belief that foul play was involved in Max's disappearance. More significantly, investigators expressed that multiple people have knowledge of what happened to him, a stark indication that the mystery enveloping Max's fate likely extends beyond his last known companion. This assertion suggested a broader, more complex scenario, perhaps implicating others present that night who have remained silent, or witnesses reluctant or afraid to come forward. It also highlighted the investigative challenge posed by an absence of solid leads and the elusiveness of concrete evidence beyond the casino's digital watchfulness. The investigation was hamstrung by several critical obstacles. The surveillance footage, though a vital piece of evidence, was limited in scope and cut off the moment Max and the unidentified man walked out of the camera's range, leaving a gaping blind spot along Highway 101's southern stretch. No public reports suggest any additional viable footage was obtained from traffic or nearby business cameras that could illuminate Max's movements after leaving the casino grounds. Furthermore, Max's lack of personal transportation and the fact that his phone was a Wi-Fi-only device, disconnected soon after leaving the casino, meant technological tracking avenues closed almost immediately once he moved beyond the casino's network. Beyond the evidentiary and jurisdictional hurdles, the investigation faced the inevitable impact of prolonged silence in public communication. After the initial flurry of activity and media reports in March and April of 2018, there was a notable drought in updates and public disclosures from law enforcement. Such long stretches without new information can stall public awareness and momentum, leaving families and communities feeling isolated in their anxiety and longing for answers. The resulting vacuum often amplifies frustration, reduces the likelihood of timely tips, and risks the case fading from public consciousness. This protracted silence was broken in December 2021 when the Del Norte County Sheriff's Office announced that they had received new relevant information and were examining new potential evidence related to Max's disappearance. The statement, issued nearly 4 years after Max vanished, rekindled hope and suggested the investigation was far from dormant. Authorities indicated upcoming interviews and evidence processing, with expectations for significant progress, possibly moving the case closer to resolution. Yet, curiously, the precise nature of this new information was not revealed, and in the years since, no substantial public updates have clarified the outcome of these efforts. This lack of transparency, while understandable in an active investigation, leaves lingering questions for those following the case closely. Throughout, law enforcement has maintained an open channel for public tips, underscoring that even the smallest piece of information could prove crucial. Both the Curry County and Del Norte County Sheriff's Offices have emphasized that calls can be anonymous, signaling a willingness to protect those who might harbor knowledge but fear repercussions. The persistent silence between official updates and the complex jurisdictional nature of the investigation only emphasize the monumental challenges facing law enforcement in unraveling Max's disappearance. A cross-border case like this requires not only diligent communication and cooperation between agencies, but also sustained public engagement to uncover any elusive fragments of truth. As we consider the arc of this investigation, from Andrea Greenfield's initial report through the joint efforts of 2 sheriff's offices, the critical albeit incomplete surveillance footage, the interrogation of Max's last known companion, to the enduring belief that multiple individuals might hold key information, the picture that emerges is one of painstaking determination shadowed by uncertainty and waiting. This segment of the story closes with the recognition that, despite early leads and a promising breakthrough in late 2021, the path to answers remains obscured. The challenges of limited evidence, uncertainties about the involvement of others, and the obstacles posed by jurisdictional divides have slowed progress, but have not extinguished the hope that one day, the truth of what befell Max Greenfield will come to light. The silent shadows enshrouding this investigation demand patience, persistence, and the continued vigilance of community and law enforcement alike. Next, we will delve deeper into the significant development nearly 4 years after Max's disappearance, the announcement of new information and potential evidence, exploring what this breakthrough meant for the case and the renewed hope it sparked for those still searching for answers. Nearly 4 years had passed since Max Phillip Greenfield vanished into the night, leaving behind a family desperate for answers and a community puzzled by the enduring mystery. In December 2021, a significant development unexpectedly pierced the long-standing silence that had shrouded the case. The Del Norte County Sheriff's Office made a public announcement that sent ripples of cautious hope throughout the region. They revealed that they had received new relevant information and were in possession of potential evidence related to Max's disappearance. The statement spoke of an active, ongoing investigation and raised expectations that substantial progress might finally be within reach, perhaps bringing the case closer to resolution. This announcement was not merely a routine update, it was a glimmer in the darkness, an inflection point in a case that had laid dormant in the public eye for years. Significant progress was anticipated, and investigators were preparing to conduct interviews and process the new evidence in the weeks following the announcement. For Max's family and supporters who had endured the agonizing uncertainty since March 2018, this news offered a resurgence of hope. It was a reminder that Max had not been forgotten, that law enforcement was still committed to finding the truth despite the passage of time and the inherent complexities of investigating a cold case. The implications of the December 2021 revelation extended beyond the immediate desire for answers. It underscored the persistent nature of these investigations, how new leads or evidence can emerge unexpectedly, sometimes years after an event, reshaping the trajectory of a case. It also highlighted the challenges faced by law enforcement in piecing together fragmented information from a case whose foundational evidence was limited. After all, the original clues centered largely around the casino surveillance footage, capturing Max's final known moments and the unidentified man last seen with him. This fresh lead suggested that investigators had uncovered something beyond what was previously available, something that warranted renewed scrutiny and follow-up. Yet, despite the guarded optimism kindled by this announcement, the months and years that followed were marked by silence. No further public updates detailed the nature of the new information, the outcome of subsequent interviews, or whether the potential evidence had indeed resulted in breakthroughs. The absence of transparent communication can be deeply frustrating for families and the public, who often cling to any fragment of news in hopes of closure. This void of information is a poignant reminder of the realities embedded in the investigation of cold cases, where new evidence does not always translate quickly, or even ultimately, into resolution or public disclosure. Cold case investigations embody a unique tension. They demand patience and perseverance in the face of uncertainty, and they must balance the need for discreet, strategic police work against the community's desire for openness and progress. With each new piece of evidence comes the hope of illumination, yet the path from discovery to justice is often long and obscured. In Max's case, while the 2021 announcement rekindled the investigation's momentum, it also brought into sharp relief the complicated nature of such inquiries, that evidence can be elusive, leads can grow cold, and that the truth is sometimes protected beneath layers of silence for reasons best known to those navigating the intricate dance of criminal investigation. The cautious optimism following the announcement was palpable but measured. Max's loved ones held on to the fragile hope that these new developments would finally pierce the veil of mystery, yet the lack of follow-through in the public domain tempered expectations. The interplay between hope and frustration became a defining feature of this phase of the investigation. This moment also casts a wider light on how cases like Max's, the challenges confronting law enforcement agencies nationwide. Limited resources, cross-jurisdictional coordination, and evidentiary constraints complicate the pursuit of answers in disappearances steeped in uncertainty. Moreover, the decision to withhold details about the new evidence, likely a tactical choice to safeguard the integrity of the investigation, can inadvertently magnify the anguish of those left waiting in the shadows. As we reflect on the December 2021 breakthrough announcement, it serves as a testament to the enduring commitment of investigators who refuse to let cases fade into oblivion. It also reminds us of the human dimension anchored in this mystery, of parents clinging to the possibility of their child's safe return, and the community's collective yearning for truth. While the specifics of the new information remain undisclosed, and the eventual impact remains uncertain, what stands clear is the relentless pursuit of justice continues, fueled by every shred of new lead, no matter how late it arrives. As we move forward in this episode, this glimmer in the darkness leads us to explore the voices that have kept Max's story alive, the family, friends, and community advocates whose tireless efforts sustain the search for truth amid the silence. Their determination is a beacon that refuses to be extinguished, just as the hope sparked by new developments continues to light the way forward in the long shadow cast by Max Greenfield's disappearance. Max Greenfield's disappearance is not only a story of mystery and unanswered questions, but also a story of enduring hope and tireless dedication from those who loved him and the community that refuses to let his case fade into obscurity. While law enforcement continues to seek answers behind the scenes, it is the relentless commitment of Max's family, friends, and broader community that keeps his memory alive and the search for truth vibrant in the public consciousness. From the earliest moments following Max's disappearance, it was clear to those closest to him that his absence was deeply out of character. His mother Andrea and sister Tanya have been steady voices in the ongoing effort to bring him home. They have consistently appealed to the public for help, underscoring the fact that Max's sudden silence was uncharacteristic and alarming. Their grief and determination have translated into ongoing public appeals, rarely letting the urgency of Max's case diminish despite the passing years and often sparse official updates. In the modern age, the power of social media has become a crucial tool in cases like Max's. Recognizing this, family and supporters launched the Finding Max Greenfield social media campaign, designed to spread awareness far beyond the local area where he vanished. This campaign shares Max's story widely, keeping his face and details fresh in the minds of thousands who might otherwise forget or never have heard of him. These efforts invite anyone with even the smallest piece of information to come forward, reminding the public that the smallest tip can sometimes unlock the biggest mysteries. Supplementing these family-driven campaigns are independent media efforts that have highlighted Max's story. Podcasts such as the Vanished podcast have featured detailed examinations of his disappearance, bringing a thoughtful and compassionate voice to the case. This platform reaches a devoted national audience of true crime listeners who are keenly attuned to such stories, amplifying the call for information and support in a way traditional media often cannot. Through these podcasts, Max's story is not only retold but also contextualized, revealing the human elements of loss, uncertainty, and the profound impact on those left behind. Local and regional news organizations also play an indispensable role in sustaining attention on Max's case. Outlets like the Wild Coast Compass and the Wild Rivers Outpost have reported on developments, including the December 2021 announcement of new evidence, each time rekindling public interest and reminding the community that the case remains unresolved. This consistent media presence ensures that Max's story does not slip into obscurity, maintaining a public dialogue that can encourage witnesses or shed new light on old leads. Beyond media and social campaigns, the broader community has embraced the case with a shared sense of responsibility. In rural and close-knit regions such as Harbor, Oregon, and Smith River, California, stories of missing persons often resonate deeply. Max's absence is felt not only within his family but among neighbors, friends, and even casual acquaintances. This collective vigilance is essential. The community becomes a living network of eyes and ears, where the simple act of sharing a social media post or recalling a seemingly insignificant detail to authorities can become a vital contribution to the investigation. One of the greatest challenges in cases like Max's is the prolonged silence between official updates. When law enforcement investigators release few details over extended periods, the risk is that public interest will wane. This is where the persistence of family, friends, and the media is most critical. By refusing to let the story die, they demand accountability, keep pressure on investigative agencies, and foster an environment where potential witnesses might feel encouraged or emboldened to come forward. Every social media share, podcast episode, and news story becomes a thread in the fabric of ongoing awareness. The relationship between official investigations and community-driven efforts is symbiotic. Law enforcement agencies rely heavily on information from the public and maintain contact numbers specifically for tips related to Max Greenfield's disappearance. These channels are often publicized by family members and through media, bridging the gap between isolated investigation and collective community action. Each new piece of information, no matter how small, has the potential to break through the case's layers of mystery. Max's story, as told across these platforms and communal efforts, is not just about a missing man but also about the power of human connection in the face of tragedy. It stands as a testament to the fact that behind every unresolved case lies a network of people determined to find answers. His mother's unwavering voice, his sister's poignant memories, the communal digital presence, and the informed ears of podcast listeners globally create a multifaceted approach to keeping his story from being forgotten. In essence, the ongoing search for Max Greenfield is as much about preserving hope as it is about uncovering facts. It illustrates how media and community involvement serve a critical function beyond mere dissemination of information. They create a living memorial, a persistent call to action, and a beacon for potential witnesses who may hold the key to breakthroughs. When official updates remain scarce and time stretches on, these networks keep the light shining on the case, helping to ensure that Max's disappearance continues to matter, and that eventually, someone will come forward to bring clarity to the silence. As we continue to explore the complexities of this case, it is vital to recognize that the combined efforts of family, friends, media, and community form an indispensable foundation. Without their unyielding commitment, Max's story might have slipped out of the public eye entirely, diminishing the chances of resolution. Their persistent voices remind us that no disappearance is ever truly forgotten when a community chooses to remember. This is the power of collective vigilance, an enduring promise that Max Greenfield's story remains alive in the hearts and minds of those who seek truth and justice on his behalf. Questions linger, shadows deepen, and the truth about Max Greenfield's disappearance remains elusive. The passage of years has not diminished the mysteries that enshroud this baffling case, where every answered question seems to birth two more. Tonight, we confront those enduring enigmas, those lingering concerns that continue to haunt investigators, friends, family, and the public alike. One of the most pressing unknowns concerns the new relevant information and potential evidence announced by the Del Norte County Sheriff's Office back in December 2021, nearly 4 years after Max vanished. The declaration sparked a renewed hope for progress, suggesting investigators had uncovered something substantial enough to possibly bring resolution to this cold case. Yet, the nature of that information remains tightly under wraps. No official details have emerged publicly explaining what this evidence comprises, whether it is forensic, testimonial, or perhaps surveillance-related. Nor has there been disclosure about the impact this information may have had on the investigation's trajectory. Was it a new witness coming forward, a technological breakthrough in analyzing existing evidence, or an entirely fresh lead? Without answers, the lack of follow-up breeds frustration and speculation, underscoring the difficult balance authorities maintain between transparency and preserving investigatory integrity. Central to Max's last known moments are the interactions caught on camera, most notably with an unidentified adult Caucasian male, the last person seen accompanying Max as they walked away from the Lucky 7 casino. Police managed to locate and question this man, who reportedly told investigators that he and Max simply parted ways, yet his identity remains cloaked, withheld from the public. This decision to protect his name raises several questions. Why is his identity being kept confidential? Is it a strategic move to protect a cooperative witness's privacy, or does it reflect ongoing uncertainty about his involvement, a means to avoid jeopardizing a delicate investigation? The terse disclosure leaves the public holding a fragmented narrative, unable to assess this man's credibility or potential motives. Moreover, the details of his police statement beyond the brief parted ways comment have not been released either. What exactly did he say? Was his story consistent, detailed, or marked by contradictions? Did he offer any insight into what happened after they left the casino property, or did he observe anyone else in the vicinity? The absence of these particulars fosters an unsettling silence, concealing what might be the key to unlocking Max's fate. Investigators' belief that multiple individuals possess knowledge about the case deepens the mystery. Who are these people? Are they witnesses afraid to speak, complicit parties, or simply holders of vital yet overlooked information? The suggestion that knowledge is fractured across several people complicates efforts to weave a coherent picture of that night. Beyond these human factors, the question extends to the physical evidence available. The casino's surveillance footage, while invaluable, covers only a narrow window of Max's final movements, ending as he and the unidentified man disappear from camera range on a path parallel to Highway 101. Were there any additional video recordings from traffic cameras, private business security systems, or resident surveillance further south that might have captured what happened next? If such footage exists, why has it not been disclosed or leveraged to shed light on his disappearance? The shadows that extend beyond the casino's view remain vast and unexplored. Similarly, forensic evidence beyond the casino is another unknown frontier. Did investigators conduct thorough searches of the casino grounds, nearby areas, or vehicles linked to the unknown male or other persons of interest? Were DNA samples, fingerprints, or other trace evidence recovered and matched against known profiles? The case history holds no public record of such findings, if any were made, heightening a feeling of unfinished business and unanswered questions about the scope and depth of forensic pursuit. The complex labyrinth of this case is also tangled by jurisdictional challenges. Max disappeared in California, but was a resident of Oregon. The initial missing person report was filed in Oregon, while the primary jurisdiction rests with California authorities. Such cross-border investigations can stall momentum, complicate information sharing, and blur lines of responsibility. Could these factors have hindered a seamless and timely discovery of critical evidence or witnesses? Each unanswered question feeds into the profound human toll of uncertainty. Max's family, his closest friends, and even those who barely knew him are left grappling not only with the fact of his disappearance, but with the many gaps in the story. What transpired after those last moments captured on film? What remains hidden beyond the reach of cameras and unspoken and guarded testimonies? What truths might emerge if barriers could be overcome of silence, jurisdiction, security protocols, and investigative limitations? As listeners, we are invited into this unresolved narrative not merely as passive observers, but as active contemplators of complexity. We must consider the challenges investigators face, the scarce clues that could slip through the cracks, the delicate decisions to withhold certain information to preserve the integrity of ongoing work, and the hope that each new lead, no matter how small, could be the thread that unravels the mystery. The shadowed questions echo persistently. What precisely was the new evidence in 2021? And why has its substance been kept secret? What can the unidentified man's full story reveal if it were ever fully shared? Who else holds pieces of this puzzle, reluctant or unable to speak? And what surveillance or forensic evidence beyond the casino's boundaries remains undisclosed or undiscovered? Max Greenfield's disappearance remains a haunting enigma, layered with silence and speculation, yet underscored by the steadfast determination of those seeking answers. This case exemplifies the profound complexities that accompany missing person investigations and the vast unknowns that can surround even the most meticulously recorded events. As we reflect on these lingering questions, we are reminded that behind every unresolved case are real lives forever altered by loss and hope in equal measure. The shadows that cloak Max's fate may still shift and recede with the courage of new witnesses coming forward and the relentless pursuit of truth, keeping alive the possibility that what is hidden today may one day be brought into the light. Max Greenfield's disappearance has left a profound and lasting impact on his family and the community that knew him. The void created by his sudden absence continues to echo, a stark reminder of the unsettling reality that someone loved and familiar can vanish without explanation. For Max's mother, Andrea, and sister, Tanya, each day is marked by the persistent ache of not knowing what happened, coupled with the hope that has refused to wane over the years. Their lives have been irrevocably altered, caught in the relentless cycle of waiting and searching, holding on to memories and the belief that answers will eventually come. The uncertainty has woven itself into their daily existence, amplifying the emotional toll and underscoring the vital importance of keeping Max's story alive and visible. Beyond his immediate family, the community around Harbor, Oregon, and Smith River, California, shares in this collective sorrow. Max was more than a missing person. He was a neighbor, a friend, a part of the fabric that connects people in small towns and rural areas. His disappearance has raised awareness about the vulnerabilities faced by individuals like Max, those confronting mental health struggles, substance use challenges, and social isolation, and has sparked conversations about the safety nets that need strengthening. The search for Max is not simply a family affair. It is a call to all who believe in justice and truth. Each new year without answers layers the mystery deeper, but it also increases the imperative for public involvement. Law enforcement agencies emphasize that even the smallest detail or forgotten sighting can alter the course of an investigation. The Del Norte County Sheriff's Office in California and the Curry County Sheriff's Office in Oregon remain steadfast in their commitment to solving this case. They encourage anyone with information, no matter how trivial it may seem, to come forward. The power of community memory and vigilance is not to be underestimated. If you have any knowledge related to Max Greenfield's case, you are urged to contact the Del Norte County Sheriff's Office at 70-746-44191 or 70-746-44194. Alternatively, you may reach out anonymously to the Curry County Sheriff's Office at 54124-73242 or 54124-73243. Your call could be the piece of the puzzle that breaks open silence and sheds light on Max's fate. The quest to find Max reflects a broader truth. Solving disappearances relies on more than just official efforts. It requires community awareness, the willingness of witnesses to come forward, and a collective refusal to allow these cases to fade into obscurity. Each person holds a role, a responsibility, to honor the memory of those who vanish by seeking justice for them. Max Greenfield's story is a solemn testament to the fragility of human life and the devastating effects when a loved one goes missing. But it is also a story of hope. Hope that the truth remains out there, waiting to be uncovered. Hope that the community's vigilance will eventually yield answers. Hope that the enduring shadows surrounding Max's disappearance will give way to light. As we reflect on this case and the ongoing journey for closure, let it serve as a powerful reminder that the search is not over. Max's family, his community, and the law enforcement agencies continue to stand together, fueled by the enduring belief that justice and truth will prevail. If you have any information, please speak up, help bring Max Greenfield home, or at least bring the answers that have long been hoped for. Because in the silence that surrounds a disappearance, every voice matters, every piece of information counts, and every effort can make a difference. The path to closure may still be unseen, but with your help, the truth can emerge from the shadows.